It was a cold and lonely night. The moon hid behind thick clouds and the forest beside the old highway was quiet. Too quiet. Only the sound of wind brushing through the trees broke the silence. Ryan Cooper, a 32-year-old mechanic, was driving home after a long day of work. His small truck rattled over the cracked road as the engine hummed a tired tune. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. Just a few more miles, he whispered to himself. Then, without warning, the truck's lights flickered. The engine coughed twice and died. Ryan frowned and turned the key again, but the truck refused to start. He opened the door, stepped out, and looked under the hood. Everything looked normal. No smoke, no smell of fuel. Still, it felt strange. The air around him seemed to buzz like a low electric hum. He looked up. The forest was darker than usual. It almost felt alive. That's when he heard it. A sound so soft he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. A cry, a child's cry. Ryan froze. "Hello?" He called out. No answer. The cry came again, a little louder, echoing through the trees. It sounded close and scared. He grabbed his flashlight and shone it toward the woods. The beam of light moved between the tall trunks, but all he saw was mist. The crying continued, weak and desperate. Something deep inside him told him to walk toward it. He took a deep breath and stepped into the forest. The ground was soft and wet, and every step made a squelching sound. The smell of damp leaves filled the air. The more he walked, the louder the crying became. "Hey, it's okay," Ryan called gently. "I'm not gonna hurt you." "Are you lost?" No reply, only soft sobs. After a few more steps, the trees opened into a small clearing, and that's when Ryan saw something that made his heart stop. In the middle of the clearing stood a little girl. She was no more than 5 years old, wearing a silver dress that shimmered even in the dim light. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her eyes were bright blue like tiny stars. She was not human. Ryan's flashlight shook in his hand. The girl turned toward him, frightened. "Please," she said in a trembling voice, "and don't take her. She's just 3. Ryan blinked. "What? Who?" But before he could move closer, a strange light flashed behind the girl. The air shimmered like heat waves on a summer road, but it was cold, freezing cold. Ryan felt the temperature drop. His breath turned white. The little girl looked at the glowing air and whispered, "No, please, not again." Ryan's heartbeat grew louder in his chest. He could feel it in his throat. He stepped closer. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." But she shook her head quickly. "They're coming. You can't stop them." The ground began to vibrate, just slightly at first, then stronger. The light behind her grew brighter, forming a strange circle in the air. It wasn't a fire, but it looked alive, spinning slowly like liquid light. Ryan's instincts screamed to run, but his legs refused to move. He could only stare. The girl turned to him again. Tears ran down her glowing cheeks. "She's only 3, she said again, almost begging. "Please don't let them take her." Ryan looked around, confused. Who are you talking about? Who's 3? The girl looked down at her hands. She was holding something small and bright, like a piece of glass filled with light. It pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing. "Her heart," the girl whispered. "I have her heart." Ryan took a step back, stunned. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, a loud crack filled the air. Trees bent as if pushed by a strong wind. A flash of silver light lit up the entire forest. Ryan covered his eyes. When he looked again, he saw shadows moving inside the glowing circle. Tall figures with sharp shapes and long arms. The girl screamed, "Hide!" "They'll see you." Ryan dropped to the ground behind a fallen tree. His heart was pounding like a drum. He peeked through the branches. The tall figures stepped out of the light. They weren't human. Their skin looked metallic, their eyes glowing red. They moved slowly, scanning the forest with strange devices that hummed and blinked. The girl tried to stay quiet, but a soft sob escaped her lips. One of the figures turned sharply in her direction. A red beam of light swept over the clearing. Ryan clenched his fists. He had 2 choices: stay hidden or help the strange little girl who begged for mercy. The beam came closer. He could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear any child would have. It didn't matter that she wasn't human. She was scared, alone, and about to be taken. Ryan's breath trembled. He whispered to himself, "Not tonight." Then he stood up. The red beam stopped only inches away from Ryan's face. He froze, barely breathing. The tall figure turned its head slowly, the red eyes glowing brighter as it scanned the darkness. Ryan's heart thudded so hard he feared it would give him away. The little alien girl was still in the clearing, clutching the glowing stone to her chest. Her tiny body trembled, but her eyes stayed fixed on the creature. She looked both afraid and brave at the same time, like she had faced this before. The figure made a sharp clicking sound. Then with a cold metallic voice it said, "Target located. Child of Illyria detected." Ryan's mind raced. Child of what? The girl's eyes widened. She whispered something in a language Ryan didn't understand. And suddenly the glowing stone in her hands flared bright blue. The creature stepped back, shielding its eyes. The light spread across the trees like ripples on water. Ryan saw his chance. He leaped from behind the tree and ran toward the girl. "Come on, this way!" he shouted. She hesitated for only a moment, then grabbed his hand. Her skin was warm, soft, but it vibrated faintly as if her body carried a hum of electricity. Together they ran through the forest, the light from the stone guiding their way. Behind them a mechanical voice roared, "Pursue and retrieve! Do not lose the artifact!" The sound of metal footsteps followed, heavy and fast. The forest lit up in flashes of red as the hunters fired their beams into the trees. Bark exploded. Branches cracked. Ryan ducked and pulled the girl close, his breath ragged. They reached an old dirt path that led down a hill. Ryan pointed toward a small river glimmering in the moonlight. "We can follow the water," he said, panting. "It'll cover our tracks." The girl nodded, still gripping the glowing stone. "You shouldn't help me," she whispered. "They'll hurt you." Ryan gave a small, tired laugh. "Yeah, well, too late for that." They followed the river until the noise faded behind them. Only the wind and running water remained. Ryan stopped under a fallen tree bridge and sat down, trying to catch his breath. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then he turned to the girl. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "They call me Lyra," she said. "But I don't think it matters anymore." Ryan frowned. "Well, it matters to me. I'm Ryan." She looked at him curiously, like she didn't understand kindness. Then she whispered, "Why did you help me?" Ryan shrugged. "You looked like you needed help. I couldn't just stand there." Lyra stared down at the glowing stone. "No one helps us. Not humans. Not even our own kind." He tilted his head. "Your kind? You mean aliens?" She nodded slowly. "We came from Illyria, a world far away. My sister and I were escaping the Dark Ones." Ryan leaned forward. "Dark Ones?" Lyra looked up at the sky, her blue eyes reflecting the stars. "They destroy planets. They take children, use them for power." She held the stone close. "This keeps her alive, my sister. She's just 3. Ryan remembered her words from before. "Don't take her, she's just 3. He finally understood. "Your sister. She's not here, is she?" Lyra shook her head. "She's still in her pod, hidden far away. If they take this stone, her heart will stop." Ryan stared at the stone. It pulsed with soft light, beating slowly like a tiny heart. "And those things back there, they're looking for this?" "Yes," Lyra whispered. "They'll kill anyone who stands in their way." Ryan rubbed his forehead. "Great, so I just made myself an alien criminal." Lyra tilted her head. "You can still leave me. I'll understand." He looked at her, small, scared, yet trying to act brave, and shook his head. "Not a chance." The forest rustled again. Lyra's eyes flashed. "They found us." Ryan looked around. "Already?" She stood clutching the stone. "They can track its energy. We have to move before—" A beam of red light cut through the trees. The ground exploded behind them. Ryan grabbed her hand and ran. The forest opened into a wide field. Above them, the clouds broke apart, and from behind them a ship appeared, silent and enormous. It floated like a dark mountain in the sky, lights blinking along its body. The bottom glowed red, scanning the ground. Lyra gasped. "That's their ship. We can't hide now." Ryan's mouth went dry. "What do they want from you?" "Just the stone." She shook her head slowly. "No, me. They want both." The red light grew brighter. The air hummed louder. Ryan's instinct screamed run, but his heart said protect her. He stood in front of her as the light came down. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. "Why would you do that?" "You don't even know me." Ryan smiled faintly. "You're just a kid. And someone has to care." The red beam locked onto them. The wind roared. Trees bent backward. Lyra shouted, "No! You can't stop them." Ryan squinted against the light and yelled, Watch me! The ground cracked. A deafening sound filled the air, and then everything went white. When Ryan opened his eyes, everything was silent. The red light was gone. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of burned earth. The trees around him were broken, glowing faintly as if touched by fire. He pushed himself up slowly, coughing. "Lyra?" He called out, no answer. Only the wind replied. He looked around wildly, his heart pounding. The spot where they had stood was now a deep circle of scorched ground. The grass was black and small sparks floated in the air like dying fireflies. The spaceship was gone, but the echo of its power still hummed faintly in the sky. Then from behind a fallen log, a small voice whispered, "Ryan." He turned quickly and saw her, Lyra, hiding, her silver dress torn and covered in dirt. She looked weak, clutching the glowing stone close to her chest. Ryan ran to her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "They tried to take me. You stopped them." He gave a short laugh, half relief, half disbelief. "Yeah, well, I don't remember doing much." "What happened?" Lyra looked at the sky. "You jumped into the light. It reacted to you. The beam broke. They lost control." Ryan frowned. "Reacted to me? How?" Lyra stared at his hand. "You touched the energy. It changed you." He followed her gaze and froze. His hand was glowing faintly blue, the same color as her eyes. Lines of light ran under his skin like veins of fire. They pulsed slowly in rhythm with his heartbeat. "What the hell?" he whispered. Lyra crawled closer. "You're connected to the core now. That's why they'll come again." Ryan sat back, stunned. "So I just painted a target on my back?" She nodded. "On both of us," he sighed. "Great." Then he looked at her trembling hands. "You're shaking." She smiled weakly. "I haven't rested in days. My energy is low." He reached into his jacket and handed her his water bottle. "Here, drink." She took it carefully, staring at the simple plastic bottle like it was something magical. "Thank you," she whispered and took a small sip. For a moment, the forest was calm. The stars above blinked through the thin clouds. Ryan leaned back against a tree, trying to understand what was happening. He said quietly, "You know, most people would have run, but I stayed." Lyra looked at him, confused. "Why?" Ryan thought for a second. "Because I saw a kid crying in the woods. Didn't matter where you're from. I couldn't just walk away." Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes softening. "On my world, people stopped caring a long time ago." He looked at her, serious. "Well, maybe that's why your world fell apart." Lyra's face darkened. "It wasn't because we stopped caring. It was because we trusted the wrong ones. The hunters were once our protectors. They said they would save us. But they only saved themselves." Ryan frowned. "And now they want to take your sister?" She nodded, tears welling up. "She's small, weak, but her power," she looked down at the glowing stone, "is greater than mine. If they get her, they can open a gate to any world they want." Ryan rubbed his face. "So basically, your sister is like a key?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, and I'm her guardian." He sighed. "Well, looks like I joined the wrong team at the wrong time." Before Lyra could answer, the ground shook again. Both of them looked up sharply. A low hum filled the air. Blue light flashed across the treetops. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're back!" Ryan stood quickly. "Already? How?" "They never left," Lyra said. "They were waiting for the signal from your hand." Ryan looked at his glowing veins. "So I'm the signal?" "Yes," he clenched his fist. "Then let's give them something to chase." He grabbed Lyra's hand. "Come on!" They ran through the trees again, dodging fallen branches. Behind them, the light grew stronger. Voices shouted in the strange metallic language. Ryan's breath came out in quick bursts. He wasn't running from danger now. He was running with purpose. He needed to protect this child, this small being from another world who somehow trusted him. They reached an old wooden cabin near the river. Ryan kicked the door open. Dust and cobwebs filled the air. "Get inside," he said. Lyra hesitated. "What is this place?" "An old ranger hut. No one comes here anymore." They ducked inside just as another beam of light passed overhead. The cabin shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Ryan peeked through the broken window. He could see the hunters moving in the trees, scanning the ground. Lyra pressed the glowing stone to her chest. "They'll find us soon." Ryan turned to her. "Then we'll make them regret it." He looked around the cabin. An old oil lamp, broken shelves, rusty tools. His eyes fell on a long iron rod. He picked it up and gave it a swing. Still solid, Lyra stared at him. You can't fight them. They have ships, weapons. Ryan smiled faintly. Yeah, but I've got stubbornness. Sometimes that's enough, she blinked. You're not afraid? He looked out the window again. Of course I am, but I'm more afraid of letting them take you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears again. You remind me of my father, she whispered. Ryan glanced at her, surprised. Yeah, he a mechanic too? She smiled softly. No, he was brave. Outside, a new beam of red light swept across the cabin. Ryan's grip tightened on the iron rod. He whispered, Then let's see if I can be brave too. The night grew darker, and the forest was silent again. The red lights had faded, but Ryan knew the danger wasn't over. Inside the small cabin, the air felt heavy, filled with dust and tension. Ryan stood near the window, holding the iron rod tightly. Outside, shadows moved between the trees. The hunters were close, searching, waiting. Behind him, Lyra sat on the wooden floor, her knees pulled to her chest. The glowing stone in her hands flickered weakly like a dying flame. Ryan turned to her. That thing you're holding, it's losing light. Lyra nodded sadly. It's because my sister is weak. The connection between us is fading. Ryan crouched beside her. You said this stone is her heart, right? Lyra looked up, eyes shining blue. It's called the life key. On my world, we share life energy through it. When someone is far away, the key keeps their heart beating. Ryan frowned. So if that stone dies, she dies, Lyra whispered. Silence filled the room. Ryan felt a tightness in his chest. A 3-year-old child, lost somewhere in space, her life depending on a small alien girl and a stranger with glowing hands. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. All right, then we can't let that happen. We'll protect the stone. Lyra shook her head. No, Ryan, you don't understand. Protecting the stone means protecting her. And that means facing them. Ryan blinked. The hunters? She nodded. They want the life key because it's powerful. It can open gateways to other worlds. If they get it, they can take over any planet they want. Ryan leaned back. So your sister is like a weapon? Lyra looked away. Not by choice. She was born with something inside her, a core energy that connects to the universe itself. They want to use her to create portals. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Then they're not going to get her. Not while I'm breathing. Lyra stared at him, confused. Why would you risk your life for us? We're not even human. Ryan smiled faintly. Doesn't matter where you're from. A kid's a kid. You said she's just 3, right? I'm not letting anyone take her. Lyra's lips trembled. You sound like my father. Ryan looked at her. You've said that before. What happened to him? She lowered her head. He tried to protect us when the hunters came to Illyria. They took him. And they made me watch, her voice cracked. He told me to run. So I did. Ryan's throat tightened. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words didn't come. Instead, he placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to run anymore. Not alone? Lyra looked at his glowing hand. You still don't understand what you've done. Ryan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? When you touched the beam, she explained softly, you absorbed a part of the life key's power. Now you're connected to us. You can feel her heartbeat. He stared at his hand. I can feel her heartbeat. Lyra nodded. Close your eyes. Ryan hesitated, then did as she said. For a moment, there was only silence. Then faintly, he felt it. A soft rhythm, deep and steady, like a heartbeat echoing in his mind. A small pulse of warmth. His eyes opened in surprise. That's her. Lyra smiled weakly. Yes, my sister Nira. She's alive because of you. Before Ryan could respond, the cabin walls shook. A blinding flash lit up the windows. Lyra gasped. They found us. Ryan jumped up and ran to the door. Outside, the sky glowed red again. The hunter's ship hovered above the trees, scanning the ground with beams of light. Damn it, he muttered. They move fast. Lyra stood up, clutching the stone. If they catch us, they'll take the life key. You have to run, Ryan. He turned sharply. Not leaving you behind, but you can save the key, she cried. If you go now, maybe they won't track both of us. Ryan shook his head. Not happening. You said we're connected now. That means if you're in danger, I'll feel it. I'm not running from that. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. They'll kill you! Ryan smiled softly. Then I'll die trying. The hunter's footsteps grew louder. The cabin's door rattled. Shadows moved outside. Lyra's hands glowed brighter. Ryan, I can use the stone's power one more time, but it might destroy it. If I do, my sister's connection could break. Ryan stared at her. You can't, she needs it. But you'll die if I don't, she said. I can shield you from their scanners for a while. Ryan thought for a moment. Then he crouched beside her and held her hands. We'll find another way. We'll save her together. Lyra blinked in shock. Together? Yeah, Ryan said firmly. You, me, and your sister. That's the deal. The hunters broke through the door. A red beam shot across the room. Ryan swung the iron rod. It hit one of them hard, sparks flying. The cabin shook from the impact. Lyra screamed, Ryan, now! He shouted back, Go! Run to the back! The light from the stone spread across the room, creating a wave of energy that blasted the hunters backward. The windows shattered. Ryan grabbed Lyra's hand as the whole cabin began to collapse. Behind them, the red lights flickered, and then, for a brief moment, the forest went silent again. They disappeared into the dark, holding on to the dying glow of the life key. The forest burned with red light. Ryan and Lyra ran through the smoke, the ground shaking under their feet. Behind them, the cabin was gone, turned into glowing ashes. The sound of engines roared above, and through the trees, the hunter's ship hovered like a giant metal beast. Lyra stumbled, clutching the fading life key against her chest. The stone flickered weakly. It's losing power, she gasped. Neera's heartbeat. It's slowing, Ryan grabbed her hand. Then we can't stop. We need to get her somewhere safe. But Lyra shook her head. There's no safe place left. They can track me anywhere, Ryan stopped, thinking quickly. The forest ended near an old mine, abandoned years ago. If they could reach it, maybe they could hide from the scanners. Come on, he said. This way. They pushed through the tall grass and reached the mine entrance. The air was cold and thick with dust. It smelled of rust and old stone. Ryan turned on his flashlight and led her inside. The tunnel was dark and narrow. Their footsteps echoed. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow, steady beats. Lyra looked around nervously. It's so quiet, Ryan whispered. That's a good thing. They walked deeper until the hum of the ship above faded away. Ryan stopped near an old wooden crate and helped Lyra sit down. Her silver dress was torn, her eyes dim. She looked like a fallen star trying to shine again. Ryan knelt beside her. You need rest. Lyra shook her head weakly. I can't sleep. If I do, she might stop breathing. Ryan looked at the stone. It pulsed faintly like a tiny dying heartbeat. Then we'll figure something out. There's got to be a way to recharge it. Lyra smiled sadly. Only a life can do that, Ryan frowned. A life? She nodded. The life key takes energy from a living soul to give it to another. It was made for guardians like me to protect the ones we love. Ryan's heart sank. You mean you'd give your own life to save her? Lyra looked down. If I have to. Before he could respond, a deep metallic sound filled the air. The hunters had found them. The mine walls trembled as a beam of red light cut through the entrance. Ryan grabbed the iron rod. Stay behind me. The hunters' voices echoed through the tunnel. The child is near. Secure the human. Retrieve the life key, Lyra's voice shook. They're here. Too many. Ryan tightened his grip. Then they picked the wrong tunnel. The first hunter stepped out of the shadows, its armor gleaming in the red glow. Its eyes burned like fire. Ryan swung the rod hard. It hit the creature's arm, sending sparks flying. The metal hand cracked, but the hunter didn't fall. It raised a glowing weapon. Ryan ducked as a red beam shot past his head, melting the rock wall behind him. That's cheating, he yelled. Lyra stood up, her hands glowing blue. Ryan, move! She raised the life key and a wave of blue energy shot forward, throwing two hunters backward. The tunnel filled with light. Dust and stones fell from the ceiling. Ryan turned to her in shock. What was that? Lyra's voice trembled. Power from the key, but it's too much. I can't control it. The light faded. The stone dimmed again. Lyra dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Ryan ran to her and held her shoulders. Hey, stay with me. She looked up, weak but determined. They won't stop. They never stop. Another hunter appeared behind them, taller and stronger than the rest. Its armor was black and covered in glowing red lines. It spoke in a deep, chilling voice. You cannot protect what does not belong to your world. Ryan stepped in front of Lyra. I don't care where she's from. You're not taking her. The hunter tilted its head. You are connected to the key. That makes you a threat. You will be eliminated. It raised its weapon. Ryan closed his eyes, ready to fight, when suddenly Lyra pushed him aside. "No!" she screamed. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. The life key burst to life in her hands. A wave of blue light exploded, knocking the hunter off its feet and sending shockwaves through the tunnel. The walls cracked. Rocks began to fall. Ryan covered his head as the ceiling collapsed in sections. When the dust settled, the tunnel was half blocked. The hunters were gone, trapped behind the rubble. Ryan coughed, trying to see through the smoke. "Lyra!" She was lying on the ground, pale and barely breathing. The life key pulsed faintly beside her. Ryan lifted her gently. "Come on, kid. Stay with me." Her lips moved slowly. "Ryan, you can save her now. You're connected." "The key listens to you." He shook his head. No, you're not dying. We'll fix this. Together, remember?" Lyra smiled weakly. "You stayed when no one else did." Her hand slipped from his and the light of the stone dimmed completely. Ryan held her close, tears mixing with the dust on his face. The mine was silent again except for a faint, rhythmic pulse coming from the stone. It was still alive. Ryan looked down at it and whispered, "I'll finish what you started. Lyra, I'll save her." He stood up, clutching the glowing stone. The blue veins on his arm brightened, spreading up to his shoulder. The life key responded to him now. Outside, the hunter's ship circled the forest once more. And deep inside the mine, Ryan, the man who stayed, became something more than human. The silence in the mine was thick. Dust floated like ghosts in the air, and the light from the life key flickered faintly, painting the walls in soft blue. Ryan knelt beside Lyra's still body, his hands trembling. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, like she was sleeping, but she wasn't breathing. He stared at the glowing stone beside her, the life key. It pulsed weakly, matching the faint rhythm in his glowing veins. Ryan swallowed hard. "You said it listens to me now," he whispered. "Then listen." He pressed his hand over the stone. The blue light spread up his arm, burning through his skin like fire and ice at the same time. He winced but didn't pull away. "Take it," he said through gritted teeth. "Take my energy, just bring her back." The mine shook. A rush of blue light burst from the stone and wrapped around Lyra's body. Her hair lifted as if caught in a wind. The glow grew brighter, filling the tunnel with warmth. Ryan felt his heartbeat slow, but he kept going. "Come on, kid. You're not done yet." Then slowly Lyra's fingers twitched. Her eyes opened, glowing brighter than ever before. She gasped for air and clutched Ryan's wrist. "Ryan, stop! You'll burn your soul!" He smiled weakly. "Worth it." The light faded. Ryan fell to the ground, breathing heavily. His veins still glowed faintly, but the blue had dimmed. Lyra crawled to him, tears in her eyes. "Why would you do that?" Ryan chuckled softly. "Told you I'd stay, remember?" Lyra's lips trembled. She looked at the life key. It was glowing again, stronger than before. Neera's heartbeat is steady. "She's alive." Ryan nodded slowly. "Good. That's what matters." Before they could rest, the ground above them rumbled. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're breaking through," Ryan groaned. "These guys just don't quit, do they?" A beam of red light tore through the rubble, carving a hole through the mine wall. The hunter's ship hovered just outside, its lights cutting through the darkness. Ryan pushed himself to his feet. The life key floated in front of him, humming softly. He reached out and it moved toward his palm, almost like it chose him. Lyra gasped. "It's responding to you now. It's making a new bond." The blue veins on Ryan's arm lit up again, spreading across his chest. The mine glowed around him as if alive. Ryan took a deep breath. "Then let's end this." The ship's door opened and the leader of the hunters stepped out. His armor was black as night, his eyes burning red. "Human," it said coldly. "You carry Illyrian power. That energy does not belong to you." Ryan stepped forward, the life key floating beside his hand like a glowing heart. "Then come take it." The hunter raised his weapon. "You cannot win." Ryan smiled faintly. "That's what everyone says before they lose." The hunter fired. A red beam shot toward Ryan, but before it hit, the life key spun in front of him, releasing a wave of blue energy. The beam dissolved in midair. Ryan looked at his hand in disbelief. He could feel the power flowing through him, like the energy was part of his blood now. Lyra stood behind him, eyes wide. "Ryan, you're one of us now." He didn't answer. He charged forward, moving faster than he ever had. The ground cracked under his feet. He swung the iron rod. It glowed blue on impact, shattering the hunter's weapon in one strike. Another hunter rushed in from the side. Ryan raised his hand instinctively, and a wave of blue light shot out. Blasting the creature into the wall, Lyra whispered, amazed. "He's becoming the guardian." Ryan's body burned with power, but his mind was calm. Every sound, every vibration, he felt it all. It was like the world had slowed down. The lead hunter stepped back, speaking in a sharp, metallic tone. "The human is unstable. Contain him." 4 hunters appeared from the ship, aiming their weapons. The air filled with red light. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "Lyra, when I move, run. Find your sister." Lyra shook her head. "No, I won't leave you again." He looked at her and smiled softly. "You have to. This fight isn't about me, it's about her." Tears rolled down her glowing cheeks. "You'll die, maybe," Ryan said, "but not before I finish what you started." He turned toward the hunters, the blue light burning bright in his chest. "You came for the child. You came to take life. But tonight, life fights back." The air exploded. Blue light crashed against red as Ryan unleashed everything the life key had given him. The ground shook. Trees outside the mine caught fire. The hunter's ship cracked from the blast. Lyra shielded her face from the storm of light. When it cleared, the entire forest was glowing in faint blue mist. The ship was gone, nothing but pieces scattered across the clearing. Ryan stood at the center, surrounded by silence. His eyes glowed blue like twin stars. The life key floated beside him, spinning slowly. Lyra ran toward him. "Ryan!" He looked at her with a tired smile. "She's safe now. I can feel her. She's calling you." Lyra's voice trembled. "What about you?" He looked up at the sky, where 2 lights blinked faintly in the clouds. "I'll catch up later." The blue glow around him grew brighter, wrapping his body in light. Lyra reached out, but her hand passed through the glow. "Ryan, don't go." He looked at her one last time. "Tell your sister, the man who stayed kept his promise." And then the light lifted him upward, fading into the sky. Lyra fell to her knees, holding the glowing life key close. "Thank you," she whispered. The night was quiet again. The forest healed slowly, the air calm. Somewhere among the stars, a new guardian was born. The forest was quiet again. Only the soft whisper of wind moved through the broken trees. The red lights of the hunters were gone, and the stars above seemed brighter, almost peaceful. Lyra stood alone in the middle of the field. Her silver dress torn, her small hands clutching the glowing life key. Its light pulsed gently now, warm and alive, but her eyes stayed fixed on the sky, where moments ago Ryan had vanished into that blinding blue light. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you kept your promise." The wind brushed her hair like a soft answer. She closed her eyes, pressing the life key to her heart. The glow spread around her, wrapping her in blue warmth. Then suddenly she heard it, faint but real, a soft heartbeat inside the stone. It was her sister, Lyra gasped. Nearer, the pulse grew stronger. The life key lifted slightly from her hands, floating on its own. It began to spin faster, the light growing brighter until it painted the forest in shades of blue and silver. The air rippled. A small silver pod appeared above the field, descending slowly, surrounded by streaks of starlight. It landed gently on the soft earth. The door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, wrapped in white light, lay a tiny girl, 3 years old, with glowing blue eyes just like Lyra's. Her small chest rose and fell. She was breathing. Lyra ran to her and fell to her knees. "Nira!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. She reached out and touched her sister's hand. It was warm, alive. Nira blinked slowly and looked up at her. "Lyra?" she said softly, her voice weak but innocent. Lyra laughed through her tears. "Yes, it's me." "You're safe now. I found you." The younger girl looked around, confused. "Where's the man? The one from your mind?" Lyra froze. You saw him?" Nira nodded. "He was in the light. He said he'd take us home." Lyra's heart ached. She looked up at the stars again. The blue glow in the sky was fading now, but she could still feel him, faint, like an echo. "Thank you, Ryan," she whispered. The life key floated between the 2 sisters, glowing softly. Then something strange happened. The stone cracked open like a shell, revealing a small orb of pure light. Inside it faintly was Ryan's voice. If you're hearing this, it means you made it, Lyra gasped, her hands covering her mouth. I don't know where I am now, the voice continued. Maybe somewhere between your world and mine. But it doesn't matter. You're safe. That's all I wanted. Lyra's tears fell silently. You said your world stopped caring. Maybe it's time to change that. Go back. Tell them there's still hope, even among humans. The light in the orb flickered like a heartbeat, then dimmed. Don't take her, Ryan's voice said softly one last time.
She's just 3.
And then the light faded completely. The orb broke into 1,000 sparks that floated into the night sky, joining the stars above. Lyra held Nira close. He's gone, she whispered. Nira looked up at the stars. No, she said softly. He's up there now, watching. The two sisters sat in the field until dawn. The first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, painting the forest gold. The life key, now just a small crystal, lay silent between them, but its glow still pulsed faintly like a memory that refused to die. Lyra looked down at her sister. We have to go home, Nira. We can't run anymore. Nira tilted her head. Home doesn't exist, Lyra smiled gently. Then we'll build a new one. She stood, holding Nira's hand. The forest around them shimmered faintly with leftover energy from the battle. Trees slowly began to heal, their burned bark turning green again. The world was coming back to life. A streak of blue light appeared across the morning sky, soft, brief, and bright. Lyra watched it, smiling through her tears. Goodbye, Ryan, she said quietly, and thank you for saving her. Months later, high above Earth among the stars, a small ship floated silently. Inside, 2 blue lights blinked on a monitor. The ship's computer spoke softly. Illyrian signatures detected. Life key stable. Guardian protocol activated. In the center of the cabin, a figure stood facing the window. His hand glowed faintly blue under the glove, pulsing with the same rhythm as the stars outside. He smiled. Guess I'm not done yet. Ryan turned toward the stars where Lyra and Nira's ship had vanished hours ago. The life key's energy had changed him forever. He wasn't just human anymore. He was the bridge between 2 worlds. He looked out into the endless dark and whispered, Let's go home. The engines roared softly, and the ship rose into the light, disappearing among the stars. A man reborn. A promise kept and a legend begun, the end.